All right. Okay, I can start. Okay. Oh, no. Stop. Okay. Okay, got it. Hi, everyone. This is Greg Muna, aka Master Moo, and we're having our latest installment of what is now titled Art is the Church of God, the Creator. Okay. Take that as you ever you want it. Art is the Church of God, the Creator. All right, so that's a tall order, but we're going to try to live up to it. Our previous title was "Music is a Revelation," and that was taken from a song title of mine, song lyrics of mine. Music is a revelation of God and sound. But we're expanding that idea because if music is a revelation of God in sound, then what is the revelation of God in image, in smell and taste and touch and the different senses? And the catch-all term for all of that is art. Art is the revelation of God through the senses, which is how our bodies and our nervous system process and relate with the actual physical environment around us. Air vibrations, light wavelengths, pressure, and so on and so forth, and how that's interpreted by our bodies and by our nervous system as sensations, emotions, impressions, and so on. And the harmonies that we find in there, those pleasing patterns and harmonies that we find in our physical perceptions, that is what we experience intuitively, emotionally as beauty. And this experience of beauty is absolutely as essential to us as human beings as food, air, water, and shelter. Beauty is not a luxury. Beauty is a necessity. And it's even more of a necessity for those of us who are struggling, for those of us who do not have access to privileges and luxuries in this life. And beauty is a necessary survival tool for humanity. And that is what art is. And whether we are approaching it from an Eastern perspective of Dharma art or from a post-Enlightenment Western perspective of art religion, whatever you want to call that, Kunstreligion, art religion, putting those ideas together to make one synthesis that will help us survive and flourish, survive and thrive in this world, in the 21st century and beyond. That's our mission. And join me. I'm doing what I can. So I'm checking the live chat. I'm checking the chat streams. Any comments that you make, I will break into that and try to answer in real time. So this week we are celebrating the traditional commemoration of marking the births and possibly also the death days, anniversaries of William Shakespeare. In England, April 23rd is St. George's Day. So over the centuries, St. George's Day has become conflated and mixed with the secular celebration of Shakespeare. And by interesting or happy coincidence, April 23rd also commemorates according to tradition, Shakespeare died April 23rd, 1616. And according to tradition, this was also the day in which the greatest Spanish author, Miguel de Cervantes, died, April 23rd, 1616. And by a third kind of fascinating coincidence, April 23rd, 1616 was the death of the author known as El Inca, who was a Peruvian nobleman who moved to Spain and became a living repository of Peruvian folklore and legends that he was raised with. So the first great author born and raised in the Americas who has made an enduring contribution to the Western canon. So the Western canon is a global phenomenon, not merely restricted to a handful of Western European nations. So Western in the largest possible sense of the word. Yes. Okay, so today my task and my challenge is to go as far as I possibly can. My goal is to read all of Shakespeare's sonnets in sequence, but my stamina, my body may give out at some point. So I will read as many as I possibly can. And Shakespeare's sonnets were his poetic diary of his midlife romantic and sexual crisis. As far as we know, he was commissioned to write poems to tutor a young nobleman who was, I guess, refusing to settle down, to convince him to the wisdom of getting married and having a stable relationship and not playing the field. And so it initially began as a tutelary pedagogical task. Shakespeare's employer, as far as we know, wanted Shakespeare to act as a kind of an older mentor or teacher to convince this the young man, referred to in the poems as the fair youth, to stop randomly, being promiscuous and being this sort of object, but to focus on love. And in the course of writing these poems, it seems that Shakespeare himself developed some sort of infatuation with the young man. Whether or not it was acknowledged or reciprocated, we don't know. There are no records. And to complicate things further, there are two other characters in the sonnets who are clearly real people in Shakespeare's life. There's the dark lady, who seems to have been Shakespeare's mistress in London at the time, and she's described as having dark complexion and sort of woolly hair. It's quite likely, quite possible that she was of African ancestry, and there were various women like that in Shakespeare's world who were running institutions where he put on plays with his bands in the periphery of downtown London, near the palaces and stuff like that. There are several candidates for who the Dark Lady may have been. No one knows exactly who the Fair Youth was. There are different candidates. No one knows exactly who the Dark Lady was. There are different candidates. And both the Fair Youth and the Dark Lady are known to the rival poet. So there's a fourth character, the rival poet, and Shakespeare's rival poet was probably Christopher Marlowe, the great Elizabethan author of the Dr. Faustus and other plays as well. And Shakespeare was quite jealous of Christopher Marlowe because Marlowe was more successful in making personal connections with Queen Elizabeth and stuff like that. But Marlowe also got involved in espionage and had a chaotic personal life, and that led to his premature death, which is not addressed in the sonnets. So when we read through the sonnets, we start off as a sort of a series. It starts off with a high-minded series of lectures about the importance of love and marriage and settling down and finding one true mate. It moves into this kind of very self-questioning state of infatuation and love of the sort of the teacher for the student, and everything that sort of transgressively that entails. And of course, this was an extremely, Christian and, homophobic society. So that would not have been any expression of that kind would have to have been highly guarded. That's why one reason why Shakespeare is sort of a founding father of metaphysical poetry, because his language gets very abstract when talking about these things. There's nothing really that explicit. You have to read between the lines. And all of these things are still disputed to this day. You know, I mean, there are people who don't accept the interpretation of the four characters, the poet, you know, Shakespeare, the fair youth, the dark lady, the rival poet, but that has become a standard interpretation, so we'll go with that. And so this is our challenge. Let's try to focus on all of the sonnets in sequence, and I will try to get through them all today, and if I can't, I'll get through as many as I can today. So for those of you who are listening in, let's go. I'll simply say a number before each sonnet, starting with sonnet 1, so like 1, 2, 3, and we'll try to get from 1 to 144, because it's 144 in total. And okay, take a deep breath. Let's go. Okay. Sonnet 1. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. But, as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedest thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies. Thyself, thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buriest thy content, and, tender churl, makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due, and by the grave and thee. 2. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then, being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep-sunken eyes were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be made new when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelest it cold. 3. Look in thy glass, and tell the face thou viewest, now is the time that face should form another, whose fresh repair if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world, unblessed some mother. For where is she so fair, whose uneared womb disdains the tillage of thy husbandry? Or who is he, so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop posterity? Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. But if thou remembered not to be, die single, and thine image dies with thee. 4. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequest gives nothing, but doth lend, and being frank, she lends to those are free. Then, beauteous niggard, why dost thou abuse the bounteous largesse given thee to give? Profitless usurer, why dost thou use so great a sum of sums, yet canst not live? For, having traffic with thyself alone, thou of thyself, thy sweet self, dost deceive. Then how, when nature calls thee to be gone, what acceptable audit canst thou leave? Thy unused beauty must be tombed with thee, which used lives the executor to be. 5. Those hours with gentle work did frame the lovely gaze where every eye doth dwell, will play the tyrants to the very same and that unfair which fairly doth excel. For never resting time leads summer on to hideous winter and confounds him there, sap checked with frost and lusty leaves quite gone, beauty o'ersnowed and barrenness everywhere. Then, were not summer's distillation left, a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass, beauty's effect with beauty were bereft, nor it nor no remembrance what it was. But flowers distilled, though they with winter meet, lease but their show, their substance still lives sweet. 6. Then let not winter's ragged hand deface in thee thy summer ere thou be distilled. Make sweet some vial, treasure thou some place with beauty's treasure ere it be self-killed. That use is not forbidden usury, which happies those that pay the willing loan. That's for thyself to breed another thee, or 10 times happier, be it 10 for 1. 10 times thyself were happier than thou art, if 10 of thine 10 times refigured thee. Then what could death do if thou shouldst depart, leaving thee living in posterity? Be not self-willed, for thou art much too fair to be death's conquest and make worms thine heir. 7. Lo, in the Orient, when the gracious light lifts up his burning head, each under eye doth homage to his new appearing sight, serving with looks his sacred majesty, and having climbed the steep up heavenly hill, resembling strong youth in his middle age, yet mortal looks adore his beauty still, attending on his golden pilgrimage. But when from highmost pitch with weary car, like feeble age, he reeleth from the day, the eyes for duteous now converted are. From his low tract and look another way, so thou thyself outgoing in thy noon, unlooked on diest unless thou get a son. 8. Music to hear. Why hearest thou music sadly? Sweets with sweet war not, joy delights in joy. Why lovest thou which thou receivest not gladly, or else receivest with pleasure thine annoy? If the true concord of well-tuned sounds by unions married do offend thine ear, they do but sweetly chide thee, who confounds in singleness the parts that thou shouldst spare. Mark how one string, sweet husband to another, strikes each in each by mutual ordering, resembling sire and child and happy mother, who, all in one pleasing note do sing, whose speechless song, being many, seeming one, sings this to thee, thou single wilt prove none. 9. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye, if thou consumest thyself in single life? Ah, if thou issueless shalt have to die, the world will wail thee like a makeless wife. The world will be thy widow, and still weep that thou no form of thee hast left behind, when every private widow well may keep, by children's eyes, her husband's shape in mind. Look what an unthrift in the world doth spend, shifts but his place, for still the world enjoys it. But beauty's waste hath in the world an end, and, kept unused, the user so destroys it. No love toward others in that bosom sits, that on himself such murderous shame commits. 10. For shame deny that thou bearest love to any, who for thyself art so unprovident. Grant, if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many, but that thou none lovest is most evident, for thou art so possessed with murderous hate, that 'gainst thou thyself thou stick'st not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which to repair should be thy chief desire. Oh, change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Shall fate be fairer lodged than gentle love? Be, as thy presence is, gracious and kind, or to thyself at least kind-hearted prove. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. 11. As fast as thou shalt wane, so fast thou growest. In one of thine, from that which thou departest, and that fresh blood which youngly thou bestowest, thou mayest call thine when thou from youth convertest. Herein lies wisdom, beauty, and increase. Without this, folly, age, and cold decay. If all were minded so, the times should cease, and 80 years would make the world away. Let those whom nature hath not made for store, harsh, featureless, and rude, barrenly perish. Look whom she best endowed, she gave the more. Which bounteous gift thou shouldst in bounty cherish. She carved thee for her seal, and meant thereby thou shouldst print more, not let that copy die. 12. When I do count the clock that tells the time, and see the brave day sunk in hideous night, when I behold the violet past prime, and sable curls all silvered or with white, when lofty trees I see barren of leaves, which erst from heat did canopy the herd, and summer's green all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier with white and bristly beard, then of thy beauty do I question make, that thou among the wastes of time must go, since sweets and beauties do themselves forsake, and die as fast as they see others grow. And nothing 'gainst time's scythe can make defense, save breed to brave him when he takes thee hence. 13. Oh, that you were yourself, but love, you are no longer yours than you yourself live here. Against this coming end you should prepare, and your sweet semblance to some other give. So should that beauty which you hold in lease find no determination. Then you were yourself again, after yourself's decease, when your sweet issue your sweet form should bear. Who lets so fair a house fall to decay, which husbandry and honor might uphold against the stormy gusts of winter's day and barren rage of death's eternal cold? Oh, none but unthrifts, dear my love, you know. You had a father, let your son say so. 14. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet methinks I have astronomy, but not to tell of good or evil luck, of plagues, of dearths, or seasons' quality, nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain, and wind, or say with princes, if it shall go well, by oft predict that I in heaven find. But from thine eyes my knowledge I derive, and constant stars in them I read such art, as truth and beauty shall together thrive, if from thyself to store thou wouldst convert. Or else of thee this I prognosticate: thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. 15. When I consider everything that grows holds in perfection but a little moment, that this huge stage presenteth naught but shows, whereon the stars in secret influence comment. When I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked even by the self-same sky, vaunt in their youthful sap at height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory, then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you most rich in youth before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay, to change your day of youth to sullied night, and all in war with time for love of you. As he takes from you, I engraft you new. 16. But wherefore Do not you a mightier way make war upon this bloody tyrant time, and fortify yourself in your decay, with means more blessed than my barren rhyme? Now stand you on the top of happy hours, and many maiden gardens yet unset, with virtuous wish would bear your living flowers, much liker than your painted counterfeit. So should the lines of life that life repair, which this time's pencil or my pupil pen, neither in inward worth nor outward fair, can make you live yourself in eyes of men. To give away yourself keeps yourself still, and you must live, drawn by your own sweet skill. 17. Who will believe my verse in time to come if it were filled with your most high deserts? Though yet, heaven knows, it is but as a tomb, which hides your life and shows not half your parts. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say, this poet lies. Such heavenly touches ne'er touched earthly faces. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, be scorned, like old men of less truth than tongue, and your true rights be termed a poet's rage, and stretched meter of an antique song. But were some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice, in it and in my rhyme. (18) Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. 19. Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleest, and do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one most heinous crime. Oh, carve not with thy hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines there with thine antique pen. Him in thy course untainted do allow, for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time, despite thy wrong, My love shall in my verse ever live young. 20. A woman's face with nature's own hand painted hast thou, the master mistress of my passion. A woman's gentle heart, but not acquainted with shifting change, as is false women's fashion. An eye more bright than theirs, less false in rolling, gilding the object whereupon it gazeth. A man in hue all hues in his controlling, which steals men's eyes and women's souls amazeth. And for a woman wert thou first created, till nature, as she wrought thee, fell a-doting, and by addition me of thee defeated, by adding one thing to my purpose nothing. But since she pricked thee out for women's pleasure, mine be thy love, and thy love's use their treasure. 21. So is it not with me as with that muse stirred by a painted beauty to his verse, who heaven itself for ornament doth use, and every fair with his fair doth rehearse, making a couplement of proud compare with sun and moon, with earth and sea's rich gems, with April's firstborn flowers and all things rare, that heaven's air in this huge rondure hems. Oh, let me, true in love, but truly right, and then believe me, my love is as fair as any mother's child, though not so bright as those gold candles fixed in heaven's air. Let them say more that like of hearsay well, I will not praise that purpose not to sell. 22. My glass shall not persuade me I am old, so long as youth and thou are of one date. But when in thee time's furrows I behold, then look I death my days should expiate. For all that beauty that doth cover thee is but the seemly raiment of my heart, which in thy breast doth live, as thine in me. How can I then be elder than thou art? Oh, therefore, love, be of thyself so wary, as I not for myself but for thee will, bearing my heart, which I will keep so chary, as tender nurse her babe from faring ill. Presume not on thy heart when mine is slain. Thou gavest me thine, not to give back again. 23. As an unperfect actor on the stage, with his fear is put beside his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundance weakens his own heart. So I for fear of trust forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, or charged with burden of mine own love's might. Oh, let my books be then the eloquence, and dumb presagers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense, more than that tongue that more hath more express. Oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ. To hear with eyes belongs to love's fine wit. 24. Mine eye hath played the painter and hath stelled thy beauty's form in table of my heart. My body is the frame wherein 'tis held, and perspective it is best painter's art. For through the painter must you see his skill, find where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom's shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. Now see what good turns for eyes have done. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, and thine for me are windows to my breast, where through the sun delights to peep, and gaze therein on thee. Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. They draw but what they see, but know not the heart. 25. Let those who are in favor with their stars of public honor and proud titles boast, whilst I, whom fortune of such triumph bars, unlooked for joy in that I honor most. Great princes' favorites their fair leaves spread, but as the marigold at the sun's eye, and in themselves their pride lies buried. For at a frown they in their glory die, the painful warrior famoused for worth, after 1,000 victories once foiled, is from the book of honor razed quite, and all the rest forgot for which he toiled. Then happy I, that love and am beloved, where I may not remove or be removed. 26. Lord of my love, to whom in vassalage thy merit hath my duty strongly knit, to thee I send this written embassage, to witness duty, not to show my wit. Duty so great, which wit so poor as mine may make seem bare in wanting words to show it. But that I hope some good conceit of thine in thy soul's thought all naked will bestow it, till whatsoever star that guides my moving points on me graciously with fair aspect, and puts apparel on my tattered loving, to show me worthy of thy sweet respect. Then may I dare to boast how I do love thee, till then not show my head where thou mayest move me. 27. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed, the dear repose for limbs with travel tired, but then begins a journey in my head, to work my mind when body's work expired. For then my thoughts, from far where I abide, intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keeping my droopy eyelids open wide, looking on darkness which the blind do see, save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, which like a jewel hung in ghastly night, makes black night beauteous and her old face new. Lo, thus by day my limbs, by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find. 28. How can I then return in happy plight, that am debarred the benefit of rest, when day's oppression is not eased by night, but day by night and night by day oppressed, and each, though enemies to either's reign, do in consent shake hands to torture me, the one by toil, the other to complain, how far I toil, still farther off from thee. I tell the day to please him thou art bright, and dost him grace when clouds do blot the heaven. So flatter I the swart-complexioned night, when sparkling stars twire not, though gilts the even. But day doth daily draw my sorrows longer, and night doth nightly make grief's length seem stronger. 29. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more ripe in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least, yet in these thoughts myself almost despising. Haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. 30. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account of fore bemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored, and sorrows end. 31. Thy bosom is endeared with all hearts, which I by lacking have supposed dead, and there reigns love and all love's loving parts, and all those friends which I thought buried. How many a holy and obsequious tear hath dear religious love stolen from mine eye, as interest of the dead which now appear, but things remove that hidden in thee lie. Thou art the grave where buried love doth live, hung with the trophies of my lovers gone, who all their parts of me to thee did give. That due of many is thine alone. Their images I loved, I view in thee, and thou, all they, hast all the all of me. 32. If thou survive my well-contented day, when that churl death my bones with dust shall cover, and shall by fortune once more resurvey these poor rude lines of thy deceased lover, compare them with the bettering of the time, and though they be outstripped by every pen, reserve them for my love, and not for their rhyme. exceeded by the height of happier men. Oh, then vouchsafe me but this loving thought. Had my friend's muse grown with this growing age, a dearer birth than this his love had brought, to march in ranks of better equipage. But since he died and poets better prove, theirs for their style I'll read, his for his love. 33. Full many a glorious morning have I seen flatter the mountain tops with sovereign eye, kissing with golden face the meadows green, gilding the pale streams with heavenly alchemy. Anon permit the basest clouds to ride with ugly wrack on his celestial face, and from the forlorn world his visage hide, stealing unseen to west with this disgrace. Even so my sun one early morning did shine, with all triumphant splendor on my brow. But out, alack! He was but 1 hour mine. The region cloud hath masked him from me now. Yet him, for this my love so wit disdaineth, sons of the world may stain when heaven's sun staineth. 34. Why didst thou promise such a beauteous day, and make me travel forth without my cloak, to let base clouds o'ertake me in my way, hiding thy bravery in their rotten smoke? 'Tis not enough that through the cloud thou break to drive the rain on my storm-beaten face, for no man well of such salve can speak, that heals the wound and cures not the disgrace. Nor can thy shame give physic to thy grief. Though thou repent, yet I still have the loss. The fenter's sorrow lends but weak relief to him that bears the strong offence's cross. But those tears are pearls which they love sheds, and they are rich and ransom all ill deeds. 35. No more be grieved at that which thou hast done. Roses have thorns, and silver fountains mud. Clouds and eclipses stain both moon and sun, and loathsome canker lives in sweetest bud. All men make faults, and even I in this, authorizing thy trespass with compare, myself corrupting, salving thy amiss, excusing thy sins more than thy sins are. For to thy sensual fault I bring incense, thy adverse party is thy advocate, and 'gainst myself a lawful plea commence. Such civil war is in my love and hate, that I an accessory needs must be to that sweet thief which sourly robs from me. 36. Let me confess that we two must be twain, although our undivided loves are one. So shall those blots that do with me remain, without thy help by me be borne alone. In our two loves there is but one respect, though in our lives a separable spite, which though it alter not love's sole effect, yet doth it steal sweet hours from love's delight. I may not evermore acknowledge thee, lest my bewailed guilt should do thee shame, nor thou with public kindness honor me, unless thou take that honor from thy name. But do not so. I love thee in such sort as, thou being mine, mine is thy good report. 37. As a decrepit father takes delight to see his active child do deeds of youth, so I, made lame by fortune's dearest spite, take all my comfort of thy worth and truth. For whether beauty birth, or wealth, or wit, or any of these, or all, or more, entitled in thy parts do crowned sit, I make my love engrafted to this store. So then I am not lame, poor, nor despised, while thou, that this shadow doth such substance give, that I in my abundance am sufficed, and by a part of all thy glory live. Look what is best, that best I wish in thee. This wish I have, then 10 times happy me. 38. How can my muse want subject to invent, while thou dost breathe that pour'st into my verse thine own sweet argument, too excellent for every vulgar paper to rehearse? O give thyself the thanks if aught in me worthy perusal stand against thy sight. For who's so dumb that cannot write to thee when thou thyself dost give intention light? Be thou the 10th muse, 10 times more in worth than those old 9 which rhymers invocate. And he that calls on thee, let him bring forth eternal numbers to outlive long date. If my slight muse do please these curious days, the pain be mine, but thine shall be the praise. 39. O how thy worth with manners may I sing, when thou art all the better part of me? What can mine own praise to mine own self bring, and what is't but mine own when I praise thee? Even for this let us divided live, and our dear love lose name of single one, that by this separation I may give that due to thee which thou deservest alone. O absence, what a torment wouldst thou prove, were it not thy sour leisure sweet gave sweet leave to entertain the time with thoughts of love, which time and thoughts so sweetly doth deceive, that thou teachest how to make one twain, by praising him here, who doth hence remain. "40. Take all my loves, my love, yea, take them all. What hast thou then more than thou hadst before? No love, my love, that thou mayst true love call. All mine was thine before thou hadst this more. Then if for my love thou my love receivest, I cannot blame thee for my love thou usest. But yet be blamed if thou thyself receivest by wilful taste of what thou thyself refusest. I do forgive thy robbery, gentle thief, although thou steal thee all my poverty. And yet love knows it is a greater grief to bear love's wrong than hate's known injury. Lascivious grace, in whom all ill well shows, kill me with spites, yet we must not be foes. 41. Those pretty wrongs that liberty commits, when I am sometime absent from thy heart, thy beauty and thy years full well befits, for still temptation follows where thou art. Gentle thou art, and therefore to be won. Beauteous thou art, therefore to be assailed. And when a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till he have prevailed? Ay me, but yet thou mightst my seat forbear, and chide thy beauty and thy straying youth, who lead thee in their riot even there, where thou art forced to break a twofold truth, hers by thy beauty tempting her to thee, thine by thy beauty being false to me. 42. That thou hast her, it is not all my grief. And yet it may be said I loved her dearly, that she hath thee is of my wailing chief, a loss in love that touches me more nearly. Loving offenders, thus I will excuse ye. Thou dost love her because thou knowest I love her, and for my sake even so doth she abuse me, suffering my friend for my sake to approve her. If I lose thee, my loss is my love's gain, and losing her, my friend hath found that loss. Both find each other, and I lose both twain, and both for my sake lay on me this cross. But here's the joy, my friend and I are one. Sweet flattery! Then she loves but me alone. 43. When most I wink, then do mine eye best see, for all the day they view things unrespected. But when I sleep, in dreams they look on thee, and darkly bright are bright in dark directed. Then thou whose shadow shadows doth make bright, how would thy shadow's form happy show to the clear day with thy much clearer light? When to unseeing eyes thy shade shines so, how would I say mine eyes be blessed made by looking on thee in the living day? When in dead night thy fair and perfect shade through heavy sleep on sightless eyes doth stay, all days are nights to see till I see thee, and nights bright days when dreams do show thee me. 44. If the dull substance of my flesh were thought, injurious distance should not stop my way, for then, despite of space, I would be brought from limits far remote, where thou dost stay. No matter then, although my foot did stand upon the farthest earth removed from thee, for nimble thought can jump both sea and land, as soon as think the place where he would be. But thought kills me that I am not thought to leap large lengths of miles when thou art gone. But that so much of earth and water wrought, I must attend time's leisure with my moan, receiving naught by elements so slow, but heavy tears, badges of either's woe. 45. The other two, slight air and purging fire, are both with thee, wherever I abide. The first my thought, the other my desire. These present absent to its swift motion slide, for when these quicker elements are gone, in tender embassy of love to thee, my life, being made of four with two alone, sinks down to earth, oppressed by melancholy, until life's composition be recured by those swift messengers returned from thee, who even but now come back again assured of thy fair health, recounting it to me. This told I joy, but then no longer glad, I send them back again, and straight grow sad. 46. Mine eye and heart are at a mortal war, how to divide the conquest of thy sight. Mine eye, my heart thy picture's sight would bar. Mine heart, mine eye, the freedom of that right. My heart doth plead that thou in him dost lie, a closet never pierced with crystal eyes. But the defendant doth that plea deny, and says in him thy fair appearance lies. To side this title is impaneled, a quest of thoughts, all tenants to the heart, and by their verdict is determinate, the clear eye's moiety and the dear heart's part. As thus Mine eye's dew is thy outward part, and my heart's right, thy inward love of heart. 47. Betwixt mine eye and heart a league is took, and each doth good turns now unto the other. When that mine eye is famished for a look, or heart in love with sighs himself doth smother, with my love's picture then my eye doth feast, and to the painted banquet bids my heart. Another time mine eye is my heart's guest, and in his thoughts of love doth share a part. So either by thy picture or my love, thyself away are present still with me. For thou no farther than my thoughts canst move, and I am still with them, and they with thee. Or if they sleep, thy picture in my sight awakes my heart to hearts and eyes' delight. 48. How careful was I when I took my way each trifle under truest bars to thrust, that to my use it might be unused to say, from hands of falsehood in sure wards of trust. But thou, to whom my jewels trifles are, most worthy comfort, now my greatest grief, now best of dearest and mine only care, art left the prey of every vulgar thief. Thee have I not locked up in any chest, save where thou art not, though I feel thou art, within the gentle closure of my breast, from whence at pleasure thou mayst come and part. And even thence thou wilt be stolen, I fear, for truth proves thievish for a prize so dear. 49. Against that time, if ever that time come, when I shall see thee frown on my defects, when as thy love has cast his utmost sum, called to that audit by advised respects, against that time when thou shalt strangely pass, and scarcely greet me with that sun, thine eye, when love, converted from the thing it was, shall reasons find of settled gravity, against that time I do ensconce me here, within the knowledge of mine own desert, and this my hand against myself uprear, to guard the lawful reasons of thy part. To leave poor me thou hast the strength of laws, since why to love I can allege no cause. Let's draw a line here at the end of 49, because starting with Sonnet 50, we begin another sequence. So 1 through 49, and then we'll do 50 to 99 or 50 to 100 in the next sequence, because I feel my throat getting scratchy, and I think I'm starting to make some mistakes of pronunciation. So let's take this up, part 2, with Sonnet 50, how heavy do I journey on the way? Okay? And maybe we can sort of recap what's happened in those first 49 sonnets, the first 50, in terms of the poet, the fair youth as student, the fair youth as beloved, the woman that they're both involved with, and the rival who's threatening to steal them both away. Okay. So part 1, I did not succeed in reading all 144 in one go. I do not have that superhuman strength. I am not superhuman like Will Shakespeare, but I'm celebrating his birthday, commemorating his death, and celebrating April, Poetry Month, commemorating the great achievements not only in English but also of Spanish literature of Miguel de Cervantes, who also died on the same day as Shakespeare, April 23rd, 1616, and literature of the Americas, which we can mark by commemorating the death of El Inca de la Vega, born as Peruvian royalty and who chronicled in the Spanish language, the folklore and the legends of the Incan people, who also, according to records, died on this died on the same day as Shakespeare and Cervantes, April 23rd, 1616. And this being a poetic edition of art is the Church of God, the Creator, because we believe it, and we know it's true, and you know it's true, even if the whole world laughs at that, even if the whole world thinks it's a joke and thinks that's just nonsense or that's bullshit or that's your opinion. No, it's not. It's the truth. And we must proclaim the truth. That the most important thing, and you can use the G word, you can say God. God is beauty. And beauty is what we experience through our senses when the information of our senses forms a meaningful harmony inside of us. And in the spoken word, that meaningful harmony is the patterns of sounds of rhythm and rhyme, which forms imagery, which forms meaning with words, which takes the words on the page into a deeper realm of meaning. Shakespeare is the master of that. So we honor Shakespeare. We honor all great poets. Okay. Because this is Greg Muna, Master Mu, reminding you, until we meet again for part 2 of Shakespeare's Sonnets, that art is the Church of God, the Creator, and music is a revelation.